House Republicans using the power of their gavel to drive home one critical point that could shape the entire 2024 election. That Donald Trump is facing multiple criminal charges for mishandling classified documents. I mean, that was ultimately the result of their much-hyped hearing featuring Robert Hur, the special counsel who investigated President Biden's handling of classified information. Today, Hur repeated his report's findings that the evidence did not support any charges for Biden.
We did not, however, identify evidence that rose to the level of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Because the evidence fell short of that standard, I declined to recommend criminal charges against Mr. Biden.
Republicans had hoped that the hearing would amplify Hur's claims about Biden's age and memory, but that was before Biden's fiery State of the Union address. So in the end, the key takeaways from the hearing today were about why Trump is facing criminal charges. At one point, Hur, who's a GOP appointee, was asked to read aloud parts of his own report detailing Trump's behavior during the Mar-a-Lago probe.
Unlike the evidence involving Mr. Biden, the allegations set forth in the indictment of Mr. Trump, if proven, would present serious aggravating facts.
Keep going.
Congresswoman, I'm happy to have you read the words in my report.
Well, it's your report, so I think it actually is more fitting that you read those.
Most notably, after being given multiple chances to return classified documents and avoid prosecution, Mr. Trump allegedly did the opposite.
Keep going.
According to the indictment, he not only refused to return the documents for many months, but he also obstructed justice by enlisting others to destroy evidence and then to lie about it.
And now Trump is facing 40 felony counts ranging from willfully retaining national security documents to destruction of evidence and conspiracy to obstruct justice. Trump hasn't helped his defense with his public statements.
I'm allowed to have these documents. I'm allowed to take these documents, classified or not classified. I'm allowed to do what I want to do. I'm allowed to have documents. And frankly, when I have them, they become unclassified. People think you have to go through a ritual. You don't. And this shouldn't even be a case.
But once you get a subpoena, you have to turn them over.
I know this. I don't even know that because I have the right to have those documents. So I don't really know that.
And there's also new compelling evidence from a former Trump aide at Mar-a-Lago who says that he personally helped move boxes and that some classified documents may have ended up at Trump's home in Bedminster.
We got to the airport. I ended up loading all the luggage I had, and he had a bunch of boxes.
You noticed that he had boxes?
Oh, yeah. They were the boxes that were in the indictment, the white banker's boxes. That's what I remember loading.
And did you have any idea at the time that there was potentially U.S. national security secrets in those boxes?
No clue. No, I had no clue. I mean, we were just taking them out of the Escalade, piling them up. I remember they were all stacked on top of each other, and then we're lifting them up to the pilots.
That former aide also talking about the possible attempt to obstruct justice by allegedly conspiring to delete security footage.
I remember him saying, hey, by the way, Walt's coming tomorrow. Oh, cool. That's great. I was like, okay. It wasn't until the following day when we're out walking, he's like, hey, by the way, it's a secret. Don't tell anybody Walt's coming. And well, why? Well, he needs me to find something out before he gets here. Oh, what's that? He needs me to, how long the camera footage is saved at Mar-a-Lago. And I'm like, well, that's odd. Why do you need the camera footage? Why do you need to know how long it's saved? And his response was, I think they're looking for somebody that was there.
A key hearing in Jack Smith's classified documents case against Trump is set for this Thursday. Meanwhile, there's also news today on Trump's first criminal trial, the hush money case in New York. A Trump filing today saying he may blame his lawyers for the criminal scheme, but he'll try to do that without losing the attorney-client privilege. Joining me now is Joyce Vance, former U.S. attorney and MSNBC legal analyst and the co-host of the #Sisters-in-Law podcast, and Leah Littman, law professor with the University of Michigan and co-host of the Strict Scrutiny podcast. Two of the very best getting us started this evening. So happy to see both of you. Joyce, I'd like to begin with you. For today in the Hur hearing, no new evidence was heard. No Perry Mason moments happened. Did anything occur in this hearing to change the fact that there's been only one president, former President Trump, that is facing criminal charges for mishandling classified documents?
You know, Katie, this hearing underlined the distinction between Donald Trump and Joe Biden for anyone who's listening. It's very clear when you read Her's report and when you hear her repeat his report out loud at the request of one of the congresswomen, that there's distinction is that Donald Trump engaged in an extensive effort to hide the amount of classified information that he had retained. And those efforts by Trump really served to show his state of mind in this regard. So Her, when he talks about Joe Biden, who voluntarily turns over material after he finds it, sits, by the way, for an interview with prosecutors, something Donald Trump has never done. All of this goes to show the distinction between the two cases. And now, frankly, it's out in the open even more than it was after Her published the written report.
You know, Leah, the Republicans in the House trying to equate Biden and Trump's conduct, kind of raising their arms, flailing about and complaining that Trump was charged and Biden wasn't. But I think what really stood out were how different those two situations actually are, specifically when it comes to criminal intent.
It's really difficult not to distinguish the two situations. I mean, on one hand, you have someone who was asked to turn over information, allegedly ordered other people to destroy it and hide it. And that's part of why he's being charged for obstruction of justice. And on the other hand, you have someone who was apologetic, sat for interviews, willingly turned it over, again, underscoring the differences that in Donald Trump's world, he is very concerned about what he will do for Donald Trump. Whereas when confronted with possibly having information that he should not have, Joe Biden cooperated with the federal government and investigators to return the information to them, again, underscoring just some of the many differences between the two candidates.
Joyce, Democrats also pressing Her on what he said in his report about Biden's age and memory. Take a quick listen.
Congressman, politics played no part whatsoever in my investigative steps.
But you understood, nevertheless, didn't you, Mr. Her? You cannot tell me you're so naive as to think your words would not have created a political firestorm. You understood that, didn't you, when you wrote those words?
I mean, Joyce, the question that lingers, right? Her's not stupid. He's got a pretty untarnished record going into this special counsel assignment. He kind of danced on the head of the pin when it came to the inclusion in his report about things dealing with Biden's memory and his age. But were those comments that he made in the report that he doubled down on today during the hearing consistent with DOJ special counsel rules?
So I think any prosecutor you talk to will tell you that these sorts of comments are unfortunate, that they're inappropriate. Maybe they don't violate protocol, so to speak, but prosecutors know better than to comment on cases when they're not going to indict a defendant. Here, the situation is a little bit different. Her is a special counsel. He knows that this report is going to be released publicly because Merrick Garland has repeatedly said that he will make it public. So everything that he puts into the report, he knows it's going to be fair game. And Katie, I think this got emphasized this morning when Her was being questioned by Congressman Matt Gaetz. And Gaetz acknowledged, I think that the right thing, the right decision here was not to indict Joe Biden. And the right decision would have been to not indict Donald Trump, was what Gaetz said in this regard. And then he went on to make the political comments, right? The law aside, he says, but of course, Joe Biden, was either old or was being deceptive. And so I think that's the point here, that Her permitted himself to be used for a political narrative. That's not a prosecutor's job.
In a move that could haunt the GOP, Donald Trump's allies have now ordered mass layoffs at the Republican National Committee. It comes just days after Trump's allies, including his daughter-in-law, took command of the RNC. Headlines calling it a, quote, bloodbath and a, quote, mob-like takeover, with more than 60 officials, including senior staff members, laid off or asked to resign and then reapply. It's reportedly part of a strategy to ensure that only staffers committed to Trump and the MAGA movement are left at the RNC. In other words, it looks like a purge of members deemed insufficiently loyal to MAGA. Politically, that could be dangerous, though, for Republicans. The rise of MAGA has led to a multi-year GOP losing streak in national elections, a streak Trump's main GOP primary rival, Nikki Haley, blamed on him.
Donald Trump lost in 2018. He lost it for us in 2020. He lost it for us in 2022. Everything he touches, we lose.
But the purge of the RNC could also give Trump more control over the organization's finances. Remember, weeks before becoming RNC co-chair, Laura Trump indicated the RNC might pay Trump's legal bills.
Do you think paying for President Trump's legal bills is something that is of interest to Republican voters?
Absolutely.
After those comments, Trump's campaign insisted the RNC wouldn't be paying his legal bills. But some RNC members were concerned enough to want to put it in writing, drafting a resolution to prohibit the RNC from paying Trump's bills. And yet, that resolution was never adopted. Some RNC members are speaking out, criticizing the move. RNC member and Vermont GOP chair Paul Dame saying, quote, "It's something between a purge and a takeover, and that's a concern for me." Now Trump allies taking control of the RNC. Joining me now is Paul Dame, RNC member and state chair of the Vermont Republican Party, and Molly Jong-Fast, MSNBC political analyst and special correspondent for Vanity Fair. My thanks to both of you for being here. Paul, I'd love to start with you. Before the break, we talked about your reaction, which was, you say it's something between a cross between a purge and a takeover. Tell us what's going on and why you feel so concerned about the RNC.
Yeah, at the time, that I had that conversation, it was a lot of speculation. That was before the news that broke Monday, indicating that almost 60 staffers had been cut. So it was really interesting for me. I had some concerns. Friday, we were in Houston. We voted for the new chair and co-chair. And I left thinking, all right, I'm going to give these folks the benefit of the doubt. And the first business day after that, we're seeing major changes at the RNC, and it's really affecting the people closest to the ground. A lot of the regional political directors and state directors were being affected by this. And that's the people that state parties like mine interact with on a regular basis. So it's kind of created some uncertainty about what's going to be happening at the RNC moving forward and how do state Republican parties interact with the national organization.
Paul, I just want to go back to something you said. On Friday, you actually voted to vote in Laura Trump and Michael Whaley, who are the chair and the co-chair, or the co-chair and the chair, respectively. And you said you wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt, but did you really think, though, putting somebody like Laura Trump in a position like that, being the daughter-in-law of Donald Trump, did you really think that was going to be the best idea, considering everything that we had heard about plans to maybe use the RNC as Trump's personal piggy bank?
Well, I had a very frank and direct conversation with Laura Trump during that meeting before the vote, and I got assurances from both her and Chairman Whatley that using RNC donor funds for legal purposes was out the window. We've also heard other staff say that. So I was willing to take them at their word, and until we see that change, we'll just have to watch what the actions are.
So, Paul, my follow-up question then is, well, what recourse do you and others that have a concern about this purge that is happening at the RNC, what's the recourse for you if you don't think that these are the right moves that need to be done at the RNC? The Republican Party is still built from the bottom up. At our next meeting, members have a lot of options. It'll be the meeting right before the convention, so things about rules, passing resolutions, and then ultimately, next January, there will be a new vote to elect leadership. The term ended prematurely here when Ronna McDaniel stepped down. So Michael Whatley is just filling from now until next January. And so Republicans will, from all 50 states and the territories, will have an opportunity to weigh in after we see the November election results on what happens. And I think my concern has been that it looks like Trump is kind of moving the RNC in the same direction we've seen the DNC for years, being very top down. A lot of people saw how superdelegate situation in the DNC really robbed Bernie Sanders of an opportunity.
And up to this point, the RNC has been very much bottom up, but maybe that's changing under Trump leadership.
Molly and I, Paul, Molly and I are going to disagree with you on that. Molly, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very nice Republican talking point to say that about superdelegates stealing from Bernie. But in fact, it's from 2016. It's not true. It's been widely debunked. And also, I might add, Bernie was quick to endorse Joe Biden and has again. I understand that Republicans are upset about what's happened to the RNC, but I do not think this is the moment. You know, I mean, you have a problem with your party and you know what's going to happen to state parties, but I don't know how much this has to do with the DNC.
Well, and Molly,
it's a comparison. DNC has been very top down, and RNC hasn't. But this is changing that.
I'd love to see some reporting that would follow up on that.
And I would say, Paul, I'm not quite sure you can say that it's not top heavy at the Republican Party if Donald Trump is the person who's controlling the purse strings as well as the people. Molly, let me follow up with you quickly on something. Nikki Haley, the biggest primary rival, right, for Donald Trump, the one who kind of outlasted the head of lettuce, kind of warned that Trump is going to be a loser for the GOP. His policies, his stances have been losers for the GOP. As your friend and our friend Rick Wilson has said, everything that Trump touches dies. Is there a concern that if Trump is basically taking over and purging the RNC, Molly, that the RNC will no longer survive?
Well, I mean, eventually the RNC will rebuild itself, but it certainly is a question as to why the RNC is handing the keys over like this. And, you know, Lara Trump has said publicly that she thought the RNC should pay Trump's legal bills. So it sounds like maybe she's walked that back. But, you know, look, Trump has a lot of legal bills. And, you know, I think there are a lot of state parties that could use the money from the RNC. So, and really the job is, you know, that on the ground organizing, which it sounds like the RNC may not have this cycle. And I think they could probably use it.